Hello, everybody. This is Beth Worsdell, author, here for Writer's Rock, and I am here with the fantastic Glen Dahlgren. So I'm focusing on my dogs, Glen, because I can hear them barking. How are you, my darling?
I'm doing well, and I'm glad to hear that you're doing better than you were before.
Thank the Lord. Glen, just before we get started, I am going to quickly, and I don't know whether you want to do this as well. I'm going to quickly find our video stream live. There we go. We are live and active, and I am going to quickly share it with the Writers Rock groups so everybody can join in. So bear with me 1 second. You are tagged, so it should tag you in there as well. So share to a group. Writers Rock readers, and there we go. My gosh, I'm getting so quick at this, Glen. I keep impressing myself. There we go. So we are done. Let me quickly share this on yours as well.
Okay.
There we go. I've just shared on yours as well, I think.
Yep.
Hopefully I've been proficient. Fingers crossed. So, yes, and I know I did this privately, but publicly, I am sorry to you and everyone for the palaver last week. The funny thing is when I broke my ankle, my first thought was, oh my God, Glen's going to be waiting for me for his interview. I have to let him know.
I was your first call.
You was. I was contacting you while my trying to get a hold of my husband to say, help, Dad, help.
I was your phone tree. I was the one who got out the word to everybody else.
And thank you so much for doing that, Glen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, truly appreciate that. I'm a little bit gutted because I was really hoping that our interview last week was going to coincide with your fantastic new book release. Show me the cover. I want to see it.
So this is the book right here.
That is absolutely fantastic.
And I, as the author, still don't have a non-proof copy. I still have the little stripe across it there. But there are people out there who have received the paperback and are posting pictures of it, and that's awesome. I just feel jealous because I don't have one of those books yet. But they send out the author copies really a lot slower than they do the commercial ones. So I'm still waiting. At the end of the month, I should get my first box. I'll probably do a unboxing video or something, but it'll be kind of anticlimactic. You know, everybody else has got theirs, and here I am with the the late box.
I know, and I have to say, and for all of our viewers that are watching, and hello everybody, please comment and say hello to Glen and I, because I can actually share your comments. That's the thing, isn't it? That's one of the major things that's been affected during the COVID pandemic is the postage system is just struggling hugely because everything is being posted. Nobody really wants to go out and find stuff. They're ordering everything at home.
It's not just the postal service. Actually, the printer that is printing my hardback is backed up because of COVID as well. And just to get a proof, and I won't order a ton more until I actually see the proof, but just to get a proof, it could take up to a month. And and then at that point, then I have to order the actual ones. That's going to take probably another month. And I have people who are waiting for it now. I have pre-orders. And that's actually why I gave out a coupon code for people so that they could take out 15% off the pre-order for the hardback. And the coupon code is hardback coming. If you go to mysterium.blog and you find my web shop and you want to buy a hardback, you can use hardback coming for 15% off.
Do you know what? That's a really good idea. And I've never heard of anybody doing that before. But with everything that's going on, that's such a fantastic idea for readers. So if there's any authors that are watching, make a note. make a note. Do you know what? You actually blow me away, to be honest with you, Glen, because you've really Well, I don't know whether you're doing 2 career paths at the moment or just mainly writing, but you've been in the gaming industry for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
Very well known. You've worked with some amazing people. Sorry about my dogs. Sorry. We're just going to have to ignore them.
It's fine.
How on earth did you actually get started, firstly, in the gaming side of things? Is that something you've always been interested in as a teen?
Yeah, I was actually programming in high school. I was programming on the Tandy color computer, and I'll bet you, like, nobody who's watching this remembers that computer. It's so old. But I
age right now.
Yeah. I won a contest, a programming contest. It was for the Coco magazine, and from there I realized, hey, maybe people like my stuff. And so my next project was a commercial project, and I wrote for a company called Prickly Pear Software. That did really well. And then I made my own company going into college, and I ran it out of my dorm room. Wow. And I sold all kinds of arcade games and adventure games. My true love was adventure games, though. And so after getting out of college, I joined with Legend Entertainment, and there I spent 14 years, I think. And I worked on some really, really amazing products. But the ones that sort of stuck with me were the story-based ones. Legend was a very story-based company. It started out as an adventure game company. And we did original titles and then moved into licenses. And so then I started working with people like Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman and Frederick Cole and Robert Jordan, working on their big titles like Gateway and Deathgate and Wheel of Time. And so that time enabled me to create fiction, to create new stories inside of these established worlds. And so I not only sort of created this skill of working with licenses, and that's its own art, is figuring out how to deliver an experience to people who are really, really invested in something. So I worked on Star Trek Online as well, and those people are really rabid fans. I mean, they will tell you if they don't like something. Yeah. And some of their ideas, some of their ideas just don't come from a game design perspective. So it's like you have to talk them down a little bit. But that was true even of like Wheel of Time. I mean, there are some really rabid Wheel of Time fans out there too.
Really?
And I find, and even with Glee was the last project that I worked on. I mean, they have rabid fans in a very, very different way. But as long as everybody understands that you have a real respect for the material, and you're treating it, not just like it's not a paycheck. It is, you are happy to be there working with something that you love. And even with Glee, I found something that I loved in there. I found the characters are great, the writing was great, and the music was outstanding. It was very different from anything else that I had done before, but it was still really satisfying to ship that game. And so, but those connections, those early connections with those literary licenses, the authors, I think I was already a fantasy fan and a science fiction fan. But being able to create those stories in those worlds was really satisfying. And even way back then, that's when I started working on this novel, 20 years ago, working on this novel.
Wow.
But I was very busy. I was making games and I was very busy. So it's only in the last few years that I've been able to really focus on it, get it to the point where I thought this is where it needs to be, and ship it out. And so, yeah, the Child of Chaos has had a very long history, but I think the end result was worth it.
It's just absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. We've got Wanda watching. Well, we've got quite a few people watching, but Wanda says, "Hi, Glen and Beth."
Hello, Wanda.
She's such an angel. I tell you, it's absolutely fascinating. And I must admit, I would love to be clever enough to be really involved in the whole gaming scene and everything. What you have is an absolute gift. I mean, you have to have a natural talent for something like that. I know there are people who are out there and they work really hard to do it, but I think you also have to have that imagination and gift to be able to create stuff like that, especially other people's storylines, and turn it into a game. I absolutely applaud you, Glen. I don't know how you do. I struggled. I've got 4 kids, and I remember when oh my God, Sam something, and it was called big game that was all the rage when my boys were younger. I didn't have a clue, and my kids would be like, "Mum, can you come and help me?" And they'd get me doing that with the buttons to try. That's about all I know about gaming.
Well, let me mention one thing. So writing a book is very different from working on a game in one really important way. And that is, when you make a game, you are working with some really talented people. I mean, it's not just me. There are people who are way more talented than I in lots of different areas. I just happen to be lucky enough to be there to tell them to make it the way I see it in my head. And that's incredible, especially when I can describe something and they come back to me with something that's even better than what I imagined. And that happens a lot when you're working with really great artists and great programmers, great musicians, voice actors. I mean, it's getting all of those people together and sort of leveraging that incredible amount of talent in one product. It's just, when you finally release that, it's amazing. It's, like releasing your baby into the world. And I feel more sort of personally invested in this book because it's more about me. But even so, there were people involved in this book. And so, this cover was designed. It was illustrated by Cindy Wenzel. She might even be in the audience. I don't know. She said she might make it if she could. But
stunning.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And Cindy is one of the artists that I worked with way back at Legend, and she had actually been out of art for a while, doing other things, and she came back to work on this cover with me because we had such a great relationship then. And she loves it. She loved the process. She loves the end result. I do too. And I told her she needs to be doing this. And so it's very possible that she might do more covers in the future for other people. But it was a lot of fun doing that. And also, Lily Lucchesi was my editor, and she did the formatting. So, I was not on my own. I had some incredible beta readers that absolutely changed the trajectory of this book. So, it's a team as well. Even writing, you can't sit in your room and just do it yourself and then just shove it out there. And if you do, I mean, it's possible, but you should probably listen to some other people before you put it in front of everybody.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? I don't think anybody realizes just how much work there is to creating a book, not just the writing side, but everything that comes after it as well.
Oh, yes.
Whole big process. But let me ask you, Glenn, what sparked your inspiration for your book?
For this book?
Yeah.
Okay.
What sparked
it's a very specific story, actually. So actually, this is Wheel of Time. This is a game that I made at Legend, and I had a design for it, and we were pitching it to a bunch of publishers, and they were going to be funding it, Legend, to develop it, and we were going to pitch it to Activision. And Activision loved the game, but they didn't want the license. They didn't want Wheel of Time for some reason. I don't even remember exactly why. So they asked for a different premise, something else I could wrap around the design, sort of answer why you were doing all of these things. And so the night before I had to pitch that thing, I came up with a premise, and it was kind of cool. And the pitch went really well. We ended up going with another company that actually wanted to do the license, and that's good because we wanted to do Wheel of Time. Yeah. But that premise stuck with me for a long time. It sort of germinated in my head. And then when I finally came back to needing to do another game after Wheel of Time, I said, well, is there another game here? Is there something else that I could look at? And I realized the premise really wasn't a game. It was a story. And it wanted to be bigger than just a story. It wanted to be a novel. And so I just started exploring it and started writing it, even way back when. And it just captivated me for so long. It's a world that really needed to be told. And a lot, if you see some of the reviews out there for the book, you'll see people are connecting, not only with the character and the plot, but the world. The world is really, and I feel a little bit bad because I kind of blow up the world at the end. And that's the reason that I'm writing a prequel, because I still want to write books in this world. I'm not giving anything away, I don't think. I mean, everyone knows that something's going to happen at the end of this book while you're reading this book, but I won't say what happens. And there is going to be a sequel. There's a changed world. It's not completely, in smithereens. But I love this world too. I think there's so much more potential, especially in the the political dynamics of what's going on that I want to explore. And I'm doing that with the story of Dantes, a warrior priest in the first book. And it's called Game of War. And that prequel, I think, should be out in 2021. A lot less time than 20 years it took me for the first book.
How exciting.
But if you don't mind, I'm just going to keep going. The spark of the story itself, one of the things that caught my attention, that made me intrigued with this book, was this world is kind of unique in that the tagline for the story used to be, it doesn't matter if you're good or evil, as long as you're something. And that's kind of the way the world is set up. Good and evil are just two different aspects of order. And there are these temples throughout the land that sort of rule everything. One of them is good, one of them is evil, one of them is war, one of them is charity, and there's a bunch of others. And if you have a longing that pulls you to one of these temples, that brings you into service of one of these gods, then you're part of the ruling class. And everybody else, they're called faithless. And they all kind of, work and toil to serve the machine that keeps those priests at the top of the heap. And so starting there, and the reason that they're able to keep their power is because thousands and thousands of years ago, they took chaos and they locked it up in a vault. And it's been calling people that have the longing for chaos, but they all die because order keeps killing them. And now in this book, there are two people who have this call to chaos, and they don't die. So things happen, and it gets a little crazy.
Do you know what? I absolutely love the whole concept of your book, and I actually I googled you as a reader would, and your reviews are phenomenal.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely phenomenal, and I'm so excited for you. I can't wait to read it. The whole concept, I mean, that's life, isn't it? But your take on it, and by the sounds of it, your world building is just fantastic. I am so super excited to read it, and I'm really excited because this is obviously just the start of your literary journey. I mean, that's just absolutely awesome. So what's been the hardest thing for you, do you think, as an author compared to your career in the gaming community? I mean, has there been anything, that's really shocked you or surprised you in any way?
Everything. I mean, sort of in making games, I mean, I've been doing it for, decades now. So and every game is its own disaster. That's the way it always works. It's always a new team and a new project and new technology. And so you never know what's going to go wrong, but something's going to go wrong. And so it's about, figuring out how to solve problems, and a lot of problems. With books, I don't know I know enough yet to know where the disasters are coming from. So right now, I think it's advertising. I just don't understand advertising. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to go from launch, which happened on Sunday, to sustained sales. And I think I've got a good enough product. I think that the cover is good. People seem to like it. I got ARC readers, and I got, I got some fairly famous people to say that they liked the book, which was great. Actually, one of the first people I got was Piers Anthony, which was kind of amazing because I didn't expect it. I mean, he is sort of a self-proclaimed curmudgeon. He's a grumpy old man. He knows it. And he said, number one, sure, you can send it to me, but I don't know if I'll be able to read it. And if I do, I'll tell you exactly what I think, and I lose fans when I do that. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll roll the dice. I mean, it's like, let's hope for the best. And then he told me, I'm not going to have time to read it. I've been reading too much. I need to write. And I'm like, what can you say to that? So, okay, I appreciate the thought. But the next day, he wrote me and said, well, I started reading it, and it caught me, and I read the whole thing, and I wrote the review. And the review was fantastic. I couldn't ask for anything better. I mean, it's at the top of the book. It says, this is what fantasy fiction should be, along with a bunch of other quotes that I'm using, of course, in all the marketing that I'm doing, because it's Piers Anthony.
Yeah.
And so I was just blown away. And that actually gave me enough confidence to be able to go after other people, to go after, to send it out, because at that point, no one had really read it yet, except for my beta readers. And to get someone like Piers Anthony telling me that, he not only loved it, but he, thought it was a cut above, that was just enough to let me think, okay, I can make a go at this, I think.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. And, and people like Piers, they're not going to, excuse the language, blow smoke up your ass. They're going to be blunt, because they've got nothing to gain or lose from it.
Especially Piers.
Exactly. And I think, at the end of the day, people like Piers would rather be honest so that you actually can improve, or, where to go, which direction you need to go in. So I would be sharing that everywhere. I think it's absolutely fantastic. The nice thing is that I think you're going to really connect with your readers, and I'm sure you've already discovered that, because once you get into a story and it grips you, and you immerse yourself in that whole new world, you do get a really good, nice connection with your readers, and it makes all the difference, because that connection really does help you propel and promote and get your name out there. And it's absolutely, it's really heart rendering, to be honest with you. It's quite humbling at times. I know, I'm so excited for you. I really, really am. Now you've written it, have you had the thought of, oh yeah, this would be a really good game as well?
No question. I mean, honestly, I've had a lot of people tell me that when they read it, they see the movie in their head.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I'm very sort of visual in my writing. And so that's not a surprise, but I would love to see that happen. I mean, I'm sure every author would love to see that happen. So I'm sure I'm not unique in that. But, absolutely, I think it could make a game. But not only that. So the prequel to this book is called Game of War. And the center of it is an actual game designed by Evil that is amazing. I would love to play that. I actually designed it as a game, and I think it would just be an amazing thing to play. So when that comes out, I'm probably going to see if there's anybody interested in licensing that to make a game out of it. I would absolutely want to be involved.
That's fantastic. Do you know what? It's brilliant. And I tell you what else, I think when you get comments from readers who say, it's like a movie in my head, I can picture everything and it would make such a good movie, blah, blah, blah. I think we as authors need to pay attention to that, because that's how books do get made into movies, because the key person has read it, visualized it all, and actually wants to make it into a movie. So, it's a huge compliment, I think. So, if I was you, I would definitely be making those movie connections and stuff on LinkedIn.
I'm all about it. I don't know how yet, but I'm going to give it a try.
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it? If you don't ask, you just don't get. So
that's exactly right.
I always say to the authors that I try and help, what's the worst that can happen? They can either ignore you, say no, or just, say yes. So it's always worth doing it. I
just had that conversation on Facebook. Someone asked me how I got the Piers Anthony quote, and I said I asked. If you don't ask, he's not going to say yes.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's the thing. Absolutely. So Wanda says, how awesome would it be to take children's stories into games? But there's been quite a few, hasn't there? I think that the games that have been loosely based on books, or
the games that I worked on were based on books. I mean, we had a ton of adventure games based on literary pieces. So, and there were other people doing them too. I think Betrayal at Crondor was based on Raymond Feist's fantasy books, and it's not a new thing. It happens a lot. It's just that it tends to happen with the sort of the broader games, the ones that go into movies and TV and what have you. So Game of Thrones, of course, has had tons of games made about it, and even I would say that things have gone the other way too. Like Halo has had a bunch of books made about it because it was such a popular property. So those cross media properties that I mean, I would love to be involved in those in some way, and it's not unheard of.
Yeah, absolutely. Now with your book, hold it up again, because I absolutely love the cover.
Sure.
It is so gorgeous. Look at that.
And this actually is the glossy one. I have a matte one. I have been actually, even though some of these have shipped, I've been thinking about what I really want to end up on. I'm kind of actually, even though the matte, it just feels luxurious and
it
great.
Really does, doesn't it?
But the glossy holds up the art better, I think, and I really like the art. And so I'm kind of thinking maybe of shifting over to the glossy.
To be honest with you, I absolutely love both. I don't know which one I like the best.
I'm kind of in the same camp, which is why I've been struggling with this.
It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one. Susie's joined us as well. She says, "Hi, Beth and Glenn. How are you?"
Doing good.
We're both doing good. I'm still hobbling, but we're both doing good. Now, with your book, which character do you think you really connected with the most?
Well,
is it? Let's face it. Some authors really connect with a baddie in their book.
Yeah. Well, so Horace, I think, is probably the most interesting character, and he's the villain. Yes. And it took me a long time to make the protagonist equally as interesting to Horace, because Horace, he's out there doing his thing. He's not just sitting back and waiting for the hero to come to him. He's changing the world. And I tell his story. He has equal face time compared to the protagonist. The protagonist, Galen, I think I have to identify with him more because he is just this explosively imaginative kid, and it kind of ends up biting him in the butt a lot. And in fact, almost literally, because there's something in his imagination that ends up spawning something dark and invading his dreams. And so that whole experience, sort of figuring out where that comes from and how to leverage his imagination to do useful and productive things at the end, is kind of his journey.
Right.
But as I say at the end of the book, one of the early beta readers identified this in the book that I really appreciated, and that is, she said, "I really like this because I feel like I am a creative person who is stifled by the world. The world is putting up all these obstacles in my way that I can't express myself as I want." And that is exactly what's going on with Galen, because the world is telling him creativity is not valued. It's not needed. Things need to stay the way they are. That's how we like it. If you want to change things, then you need to go. And so people find themselves in that situation too, where the status quo is kind of pushing them down. And she identified with Galen a lot. And I realized that he is a strong character as far as that kind of thing is concerned, identifying he needs to be creative because it's the right thing to do. I mean, he's the one who can see the world in ways that it isn't, and the ways that we can't see yet, but where it could go and where it could be really important that it go. And figuring out ways to bring that about is really important for our world. And so I appreciate that she sort of pulled that out of it. And then I identify that for everybody else now in my author's note at the end, saying, this could be you too. And keep fighting. Keep trying to tell your story.
I think that's lovely. I really, really do. I think it's fantastic that you have that message in there for creative people who, as you said, struggle to get their creativity out there. And I think that's another reason why, you will connect with so many readers and fans because of that connection. And I think that's important with my own books. My books are about dying and being saved by an ancient alien race. But the main part of the book, I'm sorry, I don't know who that is. Are you still there, Glenn?
Yes, I'm here.
I've lost you. You've gone from my laptop. There we go. I got you back. I don't even know who that is. But in mine, I've got in there, ways that you can help save the planet and stuff like that, because that's a big part of what my book is about. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important to have that little extra step towards that connection with your readers. I think that's going to go a long way. Now, between Galen and
Horace,
what sort of age gap is there between the two main characters? Obviously, you know, I know your book can be read by young adults and adults alike, and that's another thing that I love. But what's the age gap between the two of them?
I believe it's about 2 to 3 years.
So not then. Well,
excuse me?
I say that, but 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, and when you're young, that's a big gap.
Big gap, yeah, absolutely. And do they actually know each other at the beginning of the story?
They do. Yeah, Horace is actually Galen's bully. But that is not actually where their story begins. Their story begins much before that, and that is revealed much later.
So excited. Do you know what? I can't wait to read it. I really can. So we got a comment here from Autumn. She says, glossy is hard to photograph.
Yeah.
Oh, good points. Do you know what, Autumn? I never even thought of that. You're absolutely right, because it deflects the light really, really bad.
Yeah.
So maybe yeah, maybe you'll have to.
Maybe I'll keep some matte around for photographs.
Yeah.
And get a glossy for wide.
Isn't that crazy? I've done my 3rd book and I didn't even consider, oh, maybe I should get a matte one.
You've always done glossy?
I've always done glossy, because my covers, like yours, I've got some quite prominent colours, and I think it just makes them pop.
Right.
I've also, with my lettering is generally gold, silver, and red, and they really pop when they're glossy. But like you, I'm sure, when I was thinking about my book covers, I'm trying to picture not what it's going to be like in somebody's hand, but what it's going to look like on a shelf, or do you know what I mean? Because you have to think big. You have to think big, and it's whatever's going to attract the readers. But interestingly enough, with my first one, I went for more blues and purples, and purely because of the ancient angels that I had in my head. What I noticed was that most of my readers were primarily women, and because I've got 2 versions. I've got an adult and a young adult, so the majority of my readers were female, and I think it was because they were attracted to the colors of my book. So with book 2, I went for more your sort of colors, reds, blacks, golds, and my uptake in male readers went shoo.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's something I've mentioned with the Writers Rock group, that specific colors attract males and females, and other colors attract both. So I love your cover because it's going to attract both.
It's really interesting because I didn't set out for a color scheme when we started designing this cover. What I did was I said, okay, what's the most interesting scene in the book that can speak to what I'm trying to communicate? And it's the climax. And that mist that's on the ground, that red mist, I'll just show it again. The red mist that's on the ground. You know what? I'll do the other one because she's right. The red mist that's on the ground is actually in the climax. It is happening that way, and he does roll the dice. That's not a metaphor. See, that actually happens.
Autumn said with the glossy look, too much glare, and you've just proved my point.
Yep, that's right. So yeah, it's fun because it is a metaphor. The dice do kind of represent chaos, but he's actually doing that. Those dice are really important to the story.
That's just fantastic. I'm so stoked. I really, really am. We've got Kelly who's joined us as well. Hi, Kelly.
Hello, Kelly.
Hello, hello, hello. If you've got any questions for Glen, please put them on, and I can ask him while he's here. It's just an amazing journey, isn't it? It really, really is. Now, what do your friends and family and everyone think about you doing this? Did they know you were writing this book all this time, or did you surprise them?
No, it was no secret. I probably bugged them all to read it at some point because I wanted to get people's opinions about it. So my family, my nuclear family, have read for different versions of it for a long time. They're my first readers. And then it sort of extended. You know, my stepbrother read it really early. He's actually a published author and an English professor. My stepfather read it. He was one of my first readers. So my family, it's no surprise to them. They're waiting for their shipment of books too.
That's just fantastic. Now, how did you come to the decision on how to publish? Because this is something that I think all authors go through. You know, do we self-publish? Do we go through, you know, a publishing house? Do we go through a small press? How did you rationalize your decision?
I mean, I went through all the phases. Like, I started out querying agents and not so many publishers. Actually, I think the first publisher that I queried ended up accepting the book. But it was a small press. I didn't really go after the larger publishers. But I queried a bunch of agents. And my impression is that agents are really looking for reasons to say no. And so if you don't hit all of the things that they're looking for, you know, all the check boxes, then they're just going to reject you out of hand. I think I had manuscript requests from about 6 or 7 agents. And some of them were actually got kind of serious, but by that time I had signed with a publisher. And so that publisher I was with for about a year. The experience was, I won't go into the experience, but it ended with them saying that they were only going to focus on digital. And that's fine. But I mean, so you as an author are doing it for a certain number of reasons, and probably it's not money. I mean, because that's, you know, an indie author, you're not going to be making a ton of money unless something major happens. Exactly. So one of the things that you're trying to get out of it is you want to hold your own book. That's a huge part of it. And you want to hand that book to someone who really loves it. You know, maybe even sign it for them. Yes. Both of those experiences are kind of why we do this. It's why I actually made games when I first started. Yes. Knowing that somebody wanted my game for a Christmas gift, you know, to find it under the tree in the Christmas morning, and he would get it and he wanted it and he'd play it and have fun. That was incredible. And that's the same kind of thing I want here. I want someone to be able to hold a book that they wanted to read and actually read it. And so I didn't really care a lot about all the other stuff. I knew that I could probably do most of the other things if I had to on my own. I still had lots of learning to do, but I really wanted to make sure that I had physical books that I could get out to people. And so I severed that relationship with the publisher and decided to go off and do it myself. And I haven't regretted it since.
Yeah, yeah. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? You know, there's such still a big market for print books. I mean, just on Instagram alone, you know, people literally, that's all they do is post beautiful photographs of books with different scenery. You know, people love it. I'm a book sniffer myself. I've got to hold my hands up. I love the smell of a new book. To me, it's like opening a new pot of coffee. You know, the smell of a new book, you can't beat it. So yeah, I mean, I would feel the same way. To me, that's very close-minded, especially when we as authors earn the most money from print books. Yeah. We don't earn very much from the ebooks. We really, really don't. We don't have all the printing costs, but we also don't make very much profit on the ebooks.
Which is why I keep pointing people to my website. Because the books we sell directly, and we're able to sign them for the same price you get them on Amazon or somewhere else, but we make a lot more money out of doing that. So www.mysterium.blog. Go there.
There we go. I think hopefully I've actually added your links to the information with our live stream. So hopefully it's all on there. If not, I can always, or we can always add more links underneath, but everybody definitely needs to check out your reviews and the blurb on your book and all the details, because it's just fantastic. I'm so super excited. Now, do you read a lot yourself?
I tend to read less than I did when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was reading everything. I had, you know, every fantasy author that was out there, I probably read most of their books and reread a lot of their books. Lately I've read the ones that were really important to me. I read Gaiman. I read all of Pratchett's books. And so I still love sort of the old school fantasy authors. And so but I'm trying to branch out now. Now that I'm in YA, I'm trying to branch out.
Yeah, it's tough, isn't it? Because I was the same when I was a kid. I was always reading. As an adult, you've got work and kids and this to do and that to do. So your free time is so minute when you are, an adult. You can either be writing or you can be reading, because your free time is so limited, isn't it?
Or you can be marketing. That's the third thing.
Yeah, you would be surprised when I'm doing my marketing and promotional stuff. It can be like waiting in the car for my daughter, and I'll be there doing it. And every snippet of time and opportunity, I have to grab it. So, and I'm sure you're the same. If you could have a sit down and a coffee and a chat with any author at all, who would you pick?
It would probably be Gaiman. I mean, I met him once and I had a conversation with him once, but it wasn't very long. It was, when he was doing a signing, and he's just fantastic. I think I love everything that he's ever written. And he's still doing it. And he's actually pushed his properties out into TV and movies. And, I just love what makes him tick.
His imagination is absolutely amazing, and I love the fact that he's doing these masterclasses now for other authors as well. So it's like he's paying it forward, isn't it? And I think that's absolutely wonderful. I must admit, I mean, that's one of the reasons why Wanda actually created the Writers Rock groups, because she wanted to try and help other authors. And so far, it's been absolutely fantastic, and I love seeing people paying it forward. I think it's just absolutely wonderful. So I applaud your choice.
Good.
Do you know what? I think he'd be quite a good giggle as well, actually. I think he's got a very wicked sense of humour. We got another comment here. There we go. So Autumn says many people love a physical book. There you go. She agrees with us wholeheartedly.
I was really sad in that when we came to my launch, I so wanted to do a signing. I had it all set up. I had a local library in Walnut Creek. They're a 2-story library, and they have a coffee bar. They had an event room. It was wonderful, and they were excited about it. And I so wanted to take my books there and meet people and sign the books. And just that was such a big part of what I was looking forward to. And then COVID took it all away. Yeah, I'm really hoping at some point we get back there. Maybe for my next launch. I don't know.
I feel your pain, and I think a lot of authors who are watching really do as well. I released mine just after the COVID situation and couldn't do anything. And I feel for you because, I've got a book anniversary coming up where I published my second book and can't do nothing for it. However, the nice thing is that we can do things online and interactive. So maybe you could reach out to your local library and do like a multi-Zoom thing with readers and sign the copy in front of them, and there you go, it's on the way to you. You never know. But the nice thing is that we're all still adapting and getting there. We've got a comment from Anita. Hi, Anita. She says Neil Gaiman is one of her favorites as well.
And she spells favorites with a U, which means she's English, which means that's one of the reasons she likes Neil Gaiman, probably.
I know. I keep getting told off. I get told off all the time because I write how I speak, and I put U's in all the right places. And most of my, because obviously I live here in California now, but the majority of my readers are American, and they'll say, "You spelt that wrong." No, I didn't. Yes, you did. You spelled it English. Oh, God damn it! I have to sort of de-English my literature for my American readers.
I would think that a lot of Americans actually won't mind that, though. They have an appreciation for English culture.
They don't. However, I have had people leave reviews saying that my grammar isn't right, when in fact it's because I'm English. But however, I do say English author. So, and the thing is, I've been here for coming into 9 years now. So I'm still just as English as I was before. That's what you get from working from home. But there we go. Glen, I have thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, my darling. And I would normally do it for about an hour. However, my foot is throbbing like right now.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I've been so looking forward to today. I really have, especially after what happened last week. I would love to do another interview with you. And keep up on your publishing journey, because it's just fantastic, and I love the fact that you're another fantasy author, because mine's got dragons in and other weird wonderful creatures and stuff. So mine, I would say, is sci-fi and a bit of fantasy. So, but I'm a huge fantasy fan.
Yeah.
So I will be reading your book. And I will make sure I review it, because everybody should. Everybody's watching. Leave a review. They're very important, especially on Amazon, etc. And it's lovely that you're offering signed copies via your website. And I will make sure that your link is down there, so anybody can order it direct from Lou for the same price as you said earlier.
Well, and actually, the hard copy is not available anywhere else right now. It's only available at my website.
Fantastic. There we go. Even more reason to go to your website and sign up. I think that's absolutely wonderful. Thank you to everybody who's joined in today. Thank you, Glen. You are fantastic. Any other details you want with the video, please add it in the comments for us, and then everybody can go straight to it. If you haven't been able to join us live, our viewers, please know you can still ask Glen questions and share information with Glen about, books that you like or whatever, anything like that. Glen wants to interact with you. So make sure you tag him in your comments so that he can actually see when you've actually left something for him. But thank you so much, Glen. You're an absolute joy to talk to.
Well, thank you as well for having me. I really appreciate being here, and I really enjoyed speaking with you as well.
You are awesome, and hopefully we'll be able to do it again soon.
I would love to.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody, for joining.
And I hope you feel better.
Thank you very much, my darling.
Bye.
I appreciate that. We'll see you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye, darling.